I classify the Japanese flood protection works into several categories depending on the purpose. So this category is to expand the cross-sectional area of river. So you can see the simple figure at the right hand here. So, yeah, levy, and the first category is levy, dredging, setback levy. So of course, if there is no levy, the water floods freely. But dredging means the dredge the bottom sediment like this using heavy machine. And setback levy is slide the levy to our town side. So you can see, you can understand dredging and setback levy, both of the countermeasures expand the cross-sectional area. So because if flood happens, the water may, how can I say, over the levee, and in there may be inundation in our town. So not to how can I say flood, not to occur inundation, the cross-sectional area should be larger. So setback levy and dredging is down for this purpose. And cutoff is to cut off the winding river to straight. Like the river manager straighten the winding river to the straight-like shape, like this. So this is effective because discharge, the flood water can be from discharge to sea immediately because the cutoff river has a high slope, high gradient. So, yeah, I will talk about cutoff later again. But in Japan, many rivers, winding rivers, has been modified to the straight river like this. And you can see the trace of the river. It is called the crescentic lake. It is actually the old river course. But after cutoff engineering, the lake that is remained and called crescentic lake. And another example is to decrease flow rate, stream flow, during a heavy flood event. For this purpose, there are two major engineering works, retarding basin and the dam. So let me skip the retarding basin, but I will talk about dam. So I don't know how can I say? No, the dam role of dam exactly, but dam has some roles, not only for flood protection but also water use. And I classify the role of dam to three. So the first one, sorry, it is Japanese, but figure is very simple, so probably you can understand. So the first purpose is the multi-purpose dam. In Japan, we call it multi-purpose dam. That means the dam has a role of not only flood protection, but hydropower or other water use. So in this dam, in the normal condition, the water is stored in dam reservoir. But if the flood is predicted, heavy rainfall is predicted, the water level of dam is decreased. And then when a flood is actually occurred, the flooding water from upstream is stored in reservoir, and smaller amount of river water is from discharged to downstream. This is a flood protection of dam. But if the dam purpose is for water use, like hydropower generation, the water is typically kept high. Water level is typically kept high because the water is kind of the how can I say money to by generating the electricity or like for agriculture. So water level is kept high in general. So in such dam, if flood is happen, the flooded water from upstream is directly from to downstream. So such dam doesn't have a role of flood protection. But in Japan, actually, due to climate change or global warming, the devastating flooding event is increasing. So the Japanese government recently decided to change such water use dam, role of such water use dam to multi-purpose dam. I mean, the water use dam has can work as a flood protection dam. So such dam is used. Such a dam is recently getting used to used for the flood protection like this. So this is Japanese situation recently. And the last one is a dam for only flood protection. It is recently introduced. So this dam, it doesn't store water in general because there is a hole in the bottom of the dam body. So river water is from like a natural river, but when flooding, the water cannot be discharged from this small hole. The water is stored, and the large amount of water is stored in the reservoir, and the smaller amount of water is only flown to downstream. So it is actually the same as flood protection of the multi-purpose dam. So, yeah, this is kind of a new dam for only flood protection. Okay, so I'm going to explain the other dams. So as I stated, dam is used for many purposes like hydropower generation and irrigation. And I explained the dams for only flood control, flood protection. So you can see at the bottom of the dam, there's a hole. And there are some dams called check dam at upstream. So this dam doesn't store water, but sediment to protect from erosion. Because I'm going to talk about this one later, but Japan has a high production of sediment. So yeah, such check dam is very, how can I say, there are many check dams at the upstream of Japan. So you can find this kind of dam everywhere upstream of Japan. And finally, the flood protection engineering to sustain river functions. So this is like bank protection or small cross-sectional works. So you can see some cross-sectional works on the bottom of the river. It is for protecting from erosion in general. And suppose like is like a what can I say? This kind of structures. So it is made against the river flow at the river bank, and it is to protect from erosion by interrupting flooding flow. Without this kind of engineering works, the river bank is eroded when flooding. So yeah, this one support deck is important for protecting from such erosion. And so let me talk about the watershed hydrological changes with human activities. So first of all, let me introduce about the ecosystem service of forest. So, ecosystem service is like an ecological function which has a value directly or indirectly to human being. And the out of the ecosystem service of forest, recharge is one of the important things. So forest has many ecosystem functions, like protecting from global warming, because plant and vegetation photosynthesize to absorb CO2 and convert such carbon to organic matters and store or fix them into their body. And also forests modulate temperature. So imagine you probably you have experience to like walk around the inside the forest, and you feel definitely you felt the inside the forest is a little bit cooler than outside because it is a function of forest. So inside the forest does not acquire sunlight. I mean, the sunlight energy is interrupted by the forest canopy. So energy is less inside the forest. And also the heat is dropped as vaporization by transpiration. So forest has a role function of transpiration. And in transpiration, with transpiration, they drop the vaporization, vapor. So these two phenomena are reason why it is cool inside the forest. So the third one is important and most related ecosystem service of forest in this lecture, water recharge. So forest bottom sediment promotes infiltration compared with other land. So if rainfall infiltrates groundwater, so surface water amount of surface water decreases. So it contributes to mitigation of flood. And also the water is infiltrated to groundwater, so it increases the amount of groundwater. So groundwater is an important water resource. So yeah, it is very how to say useful aspect for human being. And also if water rainwater infiltrate, it finally how can I say discharge as to the surface, and it means the water is like filtered. So the water filtered water is purified. So water quality is kept high if the forest exists. And also the forest has a function to protect the sediment runoff. So according to literature, the sediment runoff is kept small in forest area, while the sediment runoff is like 150 times larger for abundant area. So the figures at the bottom explain the water recharge function by forest. So the left hand is flow rate time series and hydrograph with forest, and right hand is hydrograph without forest. So if forest exists, even we have same rainfall amount, the flow rate doesn't sharply increase like this, and it decrease moderately. And also the water is kept underground. So if forest exists, the river flow without the rain event is higher than those without forest. But if the forest doesn't exist at the watershed, even with the same rainfall amount, the water doesn't infiltrate the groundwater. So water goes to the surface runoff component and immediately arrive at the river and increase the river flow rate sharply like this. This is a different overall flow or at the watershed with and without forest. So this is important forest function or ecosystem service. So this is a case of Japan around 150 years ago to the present, focusing on the forest and the river, forest and river. So first of all, forest transition in the past of Japan. So the government in 100 around 400 years ago, so government called Edo, and the Edo era started 160 16 0 to 1868. So 280 years Edo era has continued. But Edo era prohibited deforestation. But unfortunately, the end of the era, the people actively used wood for many purposes like building materials, utility pole. So the trees in the forest decreased and the Bear Hill has been expanded at this period. And it is thought it triggered flood or landslide. So due to this situation, the government implemented the 3 flood protection laws for river, forest, and sediment. And from in the forest law, there is a protection forest law, and it regulates. It is regulation for forests that are important for the basin conservation. So it clearly want to. It is a law to clearly protect the forest, which has an ecosystem function of a river recharge. I explained in the last slide. But unfortunately, Japanese people continue to deforest to satisfy needs of wood during the wars. You know, from end of 19th century, Japan has started many wars, and that means there were needs for materials, including wood materials. So in the meantime, river. So because of forest devastation, so it seems the large amount of sediment was transported to the river and filled the river channel. But unfortunately, in this age, the river management is for low water construction. So low water construction is to keep stable water volume and depth of the river for transportation by shipping and stable water intake. So this is like people wanted to use the river as like a channel, or what can I say, the conduit to use for the shipping and the water intake. But unfortunately, this was not for flood protection, so major flood occurred many times in this age. But after that, the government changed the strategy to high water construction. It is to temporarily store river water or discharge to the sea faster when flooding. So it is actually basic concept of current river flood protection, as I explained. And after that, the purpose became diverse. I mean, the water supply was also became important, and to prevent waterborne diseases and fires. So, because of such demands, the construction of water supply reservoirs increased in this age. So, that means that the many dams constructed in that age. And also after 1930, the many uh, dams for diverse purpose were constructed, like dam for hydropower generation, and like check dam I explained. And the Japanese. Uh, Let me continue the case of watershed in Japan after post World War II. So for forest, even after the end of the war, deforestation continued. For recovery from the like loss of war, the around 1950, the government implemented expansion forestation policy. So what is expansion forestation policy? It is to deforest natural forest. So natural forest was mainly composed of broad-leaved trees, but the government cut down these natural forests and replaced with artificial forests because they are very productive and it was useful for wood materials. So even now, the many forests are artificial in Japan. So you can see this photograph. This is a photo taken at Miyazaki, but you can see the probably all green, most green trees, green colors are composed of the cedar. It is artificially planted trees. So this is the typical situation in Japan, Japanese forest. But unfortunately, the artificial forest has some problems. So the trees or wood was used for fuel material, but the fuel or source of fuel has been combusted to coal or petroleum fuel. So that means, how can I say, the importance of wood for fuel decreased. And also the liberalization of wood imports. So wood imports were liberalized. I mean, the cheaper wood materials can be imported from foreign countries. So, uh, forestry was getting the, how can I say, sorry. So affordable, cheaper imported wood materials became getting popular, and it means the decline of forestry in Japan. So what happened? So, artificial forests in Japan, many artificial forests were abandoned. So, in fact, the artificial forests are required to adequately manage. For example, thinning the younger trees, it is very important to manage the artificial forest. But without management, the artificial forest has a very low ecosystem functions. So it finally triggered collapse of forests due to typhoons and deterioration of water recharge function. So the photographs at the bottom are the collapsed to artificial forest. So artificial forest is typically composed of the dense trees. If the forestry manager doesn't cut the partial trees, so in such artificial forest, the root doesn't be strong because the how to say the sediment volume is limited, so root cannot be extend longer. That means the structure of a tree, each tree is weak. So in such situation, if strong wind, typically by typhoons, we experience such strong wind break the trees. So these situations happened due to such the low ecosystem function of artificial trees, artificial forest. And for river, after World War II, large-scale cutoff and embankment work were implemented. So as I explained, cutoff makes the slope steep and flooding water fast to sea. And also, the last the advantage I didn't explain, but cutoff lowers water level around the river. So that means the after cutoff, the land around the river can be used for agricultural land. So it was not only for flood protection, but also agriculture. So governments prefer to choose the strategy of cutoff. But yeah, and in this age, the land is desolated. I mean, the deforestation was still active. So the sediment productivity was high at the age. That means the sediment is provided to river. So that made the increase in sailing river and check dams. So the bottom picture is an explanation about sailing river, the mechanism of a sailing river. So, the river is from at the same altitude at our town. But if the sediment production is high, of course, the sediment is the stored, deposited at the river. And the altitude of river is high, becomes higher. So it is actually depends on the strategy of river manager. But if river manager choose a strategy to heighten the levee, the river is like becomes like this. But if the sediment production is still high, the sediment deposit again, and the river altitude of river becomes high again, and the altitude of river is getting higher. So finally, the altitude is clearly higher than our town. So it is called Sailing River. And we can see Sailing River somewhere in Japan. And this photo is a photograph of the Sailing River. There is a railway and a bridge. And probably you imagine this bridge is for car. But actually, this bridge is for river. Water is flowing on the top of this bridge. So this is a typical sailing river. And after the greening of land, like expansion of the artificial forest, it actually increased the forest area in Japan, throughout Japan, and it decreased sediment yield or production. So the river doesn't have much sediment compared with the past. And also the river bed gravel became important for making the building structures. And the final component is dam construction. So dam, as I explained, many dams were constructed. So finally, what happened? So sediment dramatically decreased from a river, and it resulted in the phenomenon river degradation. So river degradation is opposite to sailing river. I mean the altitude of river decreased. So according to literature, many riverbeds in full alluvial France have degraded an average of 1 to 2 meters. But you think it is natural. River degradation is preferable for flood protection because river degradation expands the cross-sectional area of river. So it may be actually good for river flood protection. But unfortunately, river degradation has many disadvantages. Oh, sorry. So problems in riverbed degradation. So the first problem is bottom sediment around the structure, artificial structures are disappeared. It may affect negatively to structures such as piers of bridge and levees. So these structures are designed based on the sufficient amount of sediment. So if sediment decrease due to riverbed degradation, it is bad for such structures. And the second problem is under digging progresses and rock exposure. So I mean that if river degraded a lot, the sediment disappeared. Every sediment disappeared, and finally the rock is remained. So in such riverbed condition, unfortunately, the many aquatic species cannot inhabit. So it is bad for the biodiversity. And the third problem is the polarization and the forestation of river channels. So I'm showing the polarization of the river at the bottom. So the left hand is a photograph taken 1970s, and right hand is taken 2010. So you can see the river scenery dramatically changed, especially with covered forest. So it is due to riverbed degradation. So if riverbed degraded, the river course, altitude between river course and the terrace is higher. It gets higher. So what happened? So higher the flood disturbance of higher terrace decrease, then the forest covers at the higher terrace, and that fix the river shape. And finally, the river road is fixed, river course is fixed here. So this is actually not really good because the forest decreases so how can I say, forest interrupts the water flow. So if there is many trees, the flood may be prone. And also the forest tree species are typically alien species. So, alien species prefer such conditions, so alien species dominate such polarized river. So it is getting a problem in Japan. Okay, so let me move to a simple introduction of my study. So this is the explanation about the distributed hydrological model developed in the northern part of Japan, the river catchment. So this model is actually more complex than the ramped model I explained, such as a unit hydrograph. But in this model, the catchment is separated into smaller compartments, and spatial resolution here is 250 meters. And in each compartment, the runoff process, hydrological process is computed like this. For example, in hill slope part, like the land, not river, there are three layers. So snow layers, surface water layers, and groundwater layers. And the model calculate the surface runoff, infiltration, and snow melt, something like that. But unfortunately, the time is limited, so simply the model, what the model can do, I explain. So by inputting some meteorological data, including precipitation, air temperature, sunshine duration, something like that. Finally, we get the output, stream flow, time series, current velocity, water temperature, something like that, throughout the basin. So my study is to apply this distributed hydrological model to address many environmental problems. This is my interest. So let me introduce some for this purpose. So this is the animation of a hydrological model, especially the snow melt water increase at upstream, and the melted water flow to downstream. And also, this is a snapshot of surface runoff flow due to the rainfall event at the upstream part here. So you can see the flow rate increased at the upper part. And the accuracy of distributed model is verified here. So this is actually the test for 1 year. And in this year, there are some flooding events that the hydrological model accurately predict the flooding events. And not only flood events, but also the flow rate at normal condition is also fine. So we can say the model has high repeatability from up to downstream. Sorry, it is maybe the result of downstream, but the point of a distributed model is it can predict the stream flow throughout the basin. So we have confirmed the predictability, repeatability of stream flow is fine from up to downstream. And the bottom figure is a study case that assessed flow alteration by dam. So this is catchment, and there's a dam here, and the color is like how the extent of flow alteration. Red is flow is altered largely, and blue is not altered at all. So as you can see, the downstream of the dam, the flow alteration extent is large, of course, compared with natural flow condition. But after the convergence of tributary, it is ameliorated, and it recovered as flow to downstream. So this kind of spatial pattern of flow alteration and its recovery is predicted using our model. And this is another challenge. So what I have been challenging is to model the animals habitat based on distributed hydrological simulation. So using distributed hydrological model, I explained. So we can get the hydraulics and flow index throughout the basin. So of course, for river animals, hydraulics and flow condition is very important for the habitat. For example, water depth is very important for riverbed animals because if depth is high, the sunlight doesn't reach the riverbed. That means the attached algae or periphyton doesn't produce well. So the hydraulics are very important for habitat condition. So with habitat suitability model, we can predict the how can I say, habitat suitability of species based on the environmental condition. So this example is for two species, habitat suitability of two species. The concept is the habitat suitability can be predicted by environmental conditions. So in this example, for species 1, if the current velocity is low, it is suitable for this species. And if the temperature is low, it's also nice for this species. So this is model, and we have environmental conditions, including water depth, current velocity. So we can predict the habitat suitability at any point. For example, if targeting a site A with low velocity and temperature, it is like here, low velocity and low temperature. So in this situation, the output of hydrological simulation can be used for the predictor variables for this habitat suitability model, like this. And in this habitat suitability models for two species, for site A, the habitat suitability can be predicted as low because at site A, current velocity is low and temperature is low. So habitat suitability is predicted as low. On the other hand, the site A has only low velocity and temperature, so the habitat suitability is predicted as high for this species. So this is our habitat suitability model, and I have been trying to develop better models, better habitat suitability models targeting swim animals, including fish and macroinvertebrates. So this is a simple, brief introduction of my ecological study using the distributed hydrological model. So I'm sorry the time is already 6:30 in Japanese time, but yeah, this is conclusion. So again, hydrological cycle and hydrological phenomena are very complex and never fully understood based on the very famous book, Applied Hydrology. However, it can be represented in a simplified way by means of system concept. I mean, this is a hydrological model. So probably you understand hydrology is related to many things like ecosystem, climate change, deforestation, water resource. So hydrological model that simply represent hydrology is useful too to understand a wide range of watershed problems and phenomena. So that is the end of my lecture. So thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. It's nice presentation. And Professor Nukasawa already talked about the hydrology and the effective to the environmental. It is very good thema and very meaningful for our activity in the daily. Yeah. So maybe for the we have already now is 40, 60, 36. So it is still we have time about 35 minutes. So the next maybe any question from the audience. First, I will open for three people to have the participant to have the question. Please raise your hand and I will arrange for the question to Professor Nukasawa. Please for the audience. Any question, please? Okay. From Ibu Devia.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, please, Ibu Devia, for open your question.
Yeah. Konnichiwa, Sensei. So I will ask about I saw your many research related so much with the biological habitat and also for the environment. So what is the reason maybe why Japan always concerned about the biological, I mean like an animal in a river that will have an impact from maybe the development of like a dam and then other water infrastructure. I mean, because is there fish in river still consumed with the with the people. I mean, and Japanese people still consume about the fish or maybe the animal from river on something like that. So, I mean, why Japan is concerned so much like this about the biological habitat in as a have an impact with the infrastructure of water infrastructure like this.
Enough, Devia? Just one question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe for
Thank you.
non-participant, you have questions? Okay, Rizky, please.
Okay, before can my voice heard?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, so my question is, Professor, um, I was interested in the topic of the artificial forest, that it was made from coniferous trees, and I want to know how effective was that? Like, is it any good for the future with the more technological development? Were they gonna be any good or better for the future, especially for tropical countries like Indonesia? Could it be a sustainable way to for flood protection and habitat protection? So that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Rizky. Just one question enough?
Yes,
Okay,
it's
thank you. And the third one, maybe? Yes. Any participant have questions? No? Okay, maybe to start for the discussion, there are two questions. The first one from Ibu Devia, and then second one from Mr. Rizky. Time is yours for Nuka Awa to answer this question.
Yes, thank you very much for nice questions. So to the first question, I understand you don't understand why biological like diversity is important when being conducting river engineering or some engineering works. Yeah, answer is partially explained by you because some fish is very important for our food, and such important fish or animal is related to other species. That is ecosystem. There is a food web. So only protecting such important species is insufficient, clearly. So considering biodiversity is very important. Yeah, this is the first reason. And the second reason is like a fish resource is kind of the direct value for us. But ecosystem has an indirect value for us. For example, I explained with the example of forest. Forest has many functions, such as promoting infiltration, and the forest sediment is important to keep nutrients. So,
Kayla, can you stop mute your voice? Okay, thank you.
and
Please continue.
and for
Nukazawa,
thank
sorry.
yes. Okay. And for river, there is a typical ecosystem function, the purification, automatic purification of pollution. That is based on the degradation of microorganisms and small animals, because microorganisms decompose the pollution, and also small organisms feed the small particle pollution. So thanks to such functions, river is partially kept clean. So there are many such ecosystem functions in not only river but also many ecosystems. But if we don't know, and if we break or damage such ecosystem without adequate knowledge, it will become like a bad ecosystem without such good functions. So we have to consider ecosystem not only for important fish but also totally. That is my answer to your question.
Yes, thank you, Sisi. Maybe, because here in Indonesia, we still focus maybe just how to meet the water need on maybe or the irrigation and also maybe for the flood protection. So we do not focus so much or maybe still ignore about the biological habitat itself like this. Okay, thank you very much for your answer, Sisi.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh,
For second question, please.
To the second question is like technological development to address the problem of artificial forest, especially in tropical countries. Is it correct?
Yep.
So just addressing the problem of artificial forest. The solution, many solutions have been proposed. In fact, the simplest solution is to manage adequately, as I explained in the lecture. For example, thinning the younger trees and plant trees at adequate plants. So the management actually works, but the additional solution might be the the deployment of artificial trees to make patches of forest ecosystem. You understand what I mean? Artificial forest is typically composed of one species and densely planted at the forest. That is problem. But the researchers recently suggest the solution to partially plant or partially retain forest during forestry, not deforesting everything, but retain part of forest. And the other ones, in the other ones, the natural seed and natural plants are developed, and the forest ecosystem becomes sound after the artificial tree forestry. So this kind of the solution is still just proposed. I mean, the not really implemented. It's at least in Japan, but I know in some region such a solution was tested in Hokkaido Island. The government tested such effect of such how can I say countermeasures, and they found the retention. It is called retention forestry. The retention forestry work to keep the high biodiversity, and it worked for the nest of bird species, important bird species. So actually, there are some solutions to address artificial forestry. So yeah, what we should is to understand the effect of such solutions and adequately implement such a new strategy. And the solution in tropical country, I have actually no idea, but I think, natural forest ecosystem is very important in general. It is also common in Japan as well. So, and to not only planting some specific species only, but plant other natural trees should be planted in a forestry area. So it is, I think, important not only for tropical country but also the other lands all over the world. So it is the, how can I say, the not that I don't think it's the adequate, I don't know, the simple solution, but the comment to your question. Is it a answer to your question?
Yeah, I think that might answer my question. Thank you, Professor.
Yeah. Thank you, Rizky. Okay, I will open the second term of the discussion. Maybe any question more for participants? I open to 3 participants for the second term. No? Okay. While waiting for from participant, I have 2 questions for you. Oh, Rizky Surya, please, Rizky Surya. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. I wanted to ask, is there an impact when there is climate change on hydrological patterns and water resources? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rizky, for your question. Maybe next participant, any questions? No? Okay. So I have two questions for Professor Nukazawa. The first one, you already showing the two models in, I mean, the La model and distributed model. If we are looking at picture, maybe La model, it is followed to the vector data, and the distributed model follow to the raster data. It is right? It is the first one. And then the second one about the temperature. You mentioned about if the canopy size is will be reduce the land surface temperature. But you mentioned that in Japan, the broad leaf changed to the carnivorous. It means, I mean the small broadleaf. So this forest type, it will affect to the land surface temperature or not. Thank you very much.
Can I answer to the two
Yes.
questions?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Lizzie Sria. So, of course, the climate change has a very big impact to hydrology in Japan as well as the world. In Japan, it has been reported that the rainfall pattern changed dramatically. So in the past, compared with the past, the strong rainfall event will increase due to climate change. But total rainfall doesn't change so much. So the rainfall event will become extremely. So this kind of the future is anticipated. And also of course, temperature increase depending on the human activity. And the typhoon magnitude will become bigger for Japan. I don't know for the other countries like Philippines, but the frequency to arrive at Japan decrease. So it is also like extreme change. I mean the frequency decrease, but if typhoon comes, it will be gradual. It will cause the bigger damage to Japan. So it is the typical anticipation and the climate change scenario. Okay, so is it fine to your question?
Okay, Rizina, thank you so much.
And it is a story about Japan, but climate is a very complex system in globe. So this is only the case of Japan. So probably the situation in other countries, especially the rainfall pattern, varies depending on the how can I say the area. So yeah, this is like an additional explanation. So the answer to the two questions from Dr. Agus. So for the model, probably it's better to show the model. Okay. So I introduced the two classifications, ramped model
Yes.
and the distributed model.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, distributed model is like a raster, based on raster data, as you said. And the ramped model can be developed without any GIS data. So it is extremely speaking, it can be done with like Excel or one equation. So it is very simple. So yeah, distributed model requires a raster data, distributed elevation, digital elevation data, land use data, and it requires some hydrological analysis. But for ramped model, it can be extremely simple without any GIS data. So this is a very different point between them. And the second question, I probably didn't understand well. You asked a question about the surface temperature, effective temperature.
You mentioned that in Japan, the forest changed from the plantation. It's been changed from the broadleaf and then changed to the canopy. But in the broadleaf and then make the canopy. Canopy will they reduce the temperature, land surface temperature. But for if the change to the carnivorous, it is just like what we call here is slim leaf. So it is will be reduce the temperature or not comparing with the broadleaf, because the unit on the basic is on the canopy, as you mentioned in your presentation.
Yes, I think it is also possible. With the example of artificial forest, actually the problem exists in different points. Actually, the artificial forest is composed of the same age trees. You know, so height is same among all trees. So what happens? So the canopy height, canopy level is same. That interrupts the sunlight into the ground. If the height differs between trees, sunlight can be arrived at the ground. But the artificial forest is typically the same age. So that is more, I think, important or problematic if compared with the natural broadleaf forest.
So it means the most important thing is the height of the canopy. The height of canopy.
Yes.
If the height is low, maybe the sunlight will be attached to the land. But if the canopy is high, maybe the sunlight is not attack the land, so it will interrupt by the canopy itself. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Okay, the time is still have 15 minutes. If any question more about that one. No, it's enough for everybody. Okay. Professor Nukazawa, it was moved from the north area in Japan, from Tsukuba, Tohoku, and then to Miyazaki. Miyazaki is the Nihon no Hinata Miyazaki Ken. So it is coming from the warm area. So that's why maybe sometime you can visit to Malang. It is similar.
I hope so.
Climate, and we can discuss in detail, and we can share about the watershed condition and hydrologic condition in Indonesia. So maybe you can compare on that one. Okay.
I really hope so. Thank you very much.
Maybe for the last question from me. You mentioned about the riverbed degradation and flood protection. Which one is better?
Degradation and flood protection.
Yes.
Degradation has a broad meaning, so it's difficult, very.
Yeah, because
Of course, flood protection is very important. So
very important, yeah. Because usually in Indonesia, we are using the flood protection for that one. Up to now, we don't make sense about the environment itself, because the most important thing in Indonesia is the flood can be released soon. This the purpose one. Okay, thank you very much. If no question, maybe the time will be sent back to the officer, is this Mr. Sisiki Surya, to continue on that program. Thank you very much for your lecture, Prof. Nukasawa, and maybe can be soon see you soon in Malang. And welcome to Malang. Thank you very much.
thank you very much.
Time is back to Mr. Rixis Surya.
Okay, thank you very much to the Associate Professor Kinizakawa, MSc PhD from Miyazaki University, Japan, for the delivery of their material on this occasion today. Hopefully, the material presented can be useful for all of us. Thank you also to Mr. Insinyur Agus Waryanto, Master of Engineering PhD, as the moderator who has guided the material presentation sessions today. As a form of appreciation, all participants are welcome to giving virtual applause. Okay, and the next, we will enter the documentation session. However, before that, I would like to urge today's participants to fill in their attendance using the link that has been sent via the chat column. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite all participants present to turn on their cameras and use the virtual background that has been provided. Here, I will guide the documentation sessions, and on the screen, I can see 4 slides. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I will start from the first slide. I will count to 3. 1, 2, 3. For the next slide, 1, 2, 3. And the next slide, 1, 2, 3. And for the last slide, 1, 2, 3. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you for your participation. The documentation sessions has ended. Finally, we have come to the end of the guest lecture, Civil Engineering of the Faculty of Engineering, Brawijaya University 2023, Fundamental Knowledge about Hydrology. Hopefully, what we have live today can be useful for all of us. On behalf of the entire organizing committee, we thank you for your participation and apologize if there are any shortcomings. I, Rizky Surya, as a master chef ceremony at today's event, say goodbye. Apologize if there are mistakes. Thank you and good afternoon. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam Om Santi Santi Om.
Sensei, arigatou gozaimashita. Chikagatoremashita no de.
Arigatou gozaimashita.
Thank you very much. Arigatou.
先生たちによろしくお願いします。また、マランに待っていますんで、いつでも来ていらっしゃい。
ぜひ行きたいです。
はい。
I hope to go visit.
Yes.
Yes, of course. Okay. Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Sayonara.
Thank you very much.
Jangan nyari mobil lagi yang gede ini gimana ini? Maybe gimana? Pakai ribu kan? Pakai ribu.
dalam pencapaian visi dan misi yang mengikuti perkembangan dunia industri Republik Indonesia 4.0 dan Society 5.0. Departemen Teknik Sipil didukung oleh 3 program studi, yaitu program studi sarjana, program studi magister, dan program studi doktor yang telah terakreditasi unggul BAN PT. Departemen Teknik Sipil senantiasa memastikan proses dan kualitas tridharma perguruan tinggi, yaitu pendidikan, penelitian, dan pengabdian kepada masyarakat berjalan dengan baik sesuai standar nasional perguruan tinggi dalam Permendikbud 3 tahun 2020 dan standar internasional Washington Accord serta ISO 9001-2015 dan ISO 21001-2018 melalui monitoring dan evaluasi dalam siklus PPEPP. 7 laboratorium yang berada di Departemen Teknik Sipil guna memfasilitasi mahasiswa dalam meningkatkan pemahaman kognitif dan psikomotorik untuk pemenuhan capaian pembelajaran lulusan sesuai dengan kurikulum berbasis Outcome Based Education atau OBE yang diterapkan dengan mempertimbangkan masukan Asosiasi Teknik Sipil BMPTT SSI, yaitu Laboratorium Struktur dan Bahan Konstruksi, Laboratorium Transportasi dan Jalan Raya, Laboratorium Pemetaan dan Penginderaan Jauh, Laboratorium Mekanika Tanah dan Geologi, Laboratorium Manajemen Konstruksi, Laboratorium Kebencanaan dan Studio Komputasi. 5 keminatan yang terdapat pada Departemen Teknik Sipil, yaitu struktur, keairan, geoteknik, transportasi, dan manajemen konstruksi, membekali mahasiswa untuk dapat bebas berkiprah dan sukses di berbagai profil lulusan di dunia kerja, seperti sebagai pegawai pemerintah, konsultan perencana, kontraktor, konsultan pengawas, akademisi, peneliti, maupun wirausaha. Untuk membantu kesuksesan program-program yang dijalankan, Departemen Teknik Sipil telah mempersiapkan berbagai fasilitas penunjang seperti ruang kelas dengan perlengkapan perkuliahan hybrid, laboratorium-laboratorium yang memadai, ruang baca dengan referensi khusus teknik sipil, ruang kerja mahasiswa S2 dan S3, akses internet yang cepat dan melingkup ke berbagai jurnal internasional bereputasi, ruang administrasi recording, auditorium, ruang sidang dan seminar, tempat berwirausaha civil corner, serta gazebo dan ruang diskusi indoor dan outdoor yang nyaman. Upaya peningkatan soft skill dan keterampilan mahasiswa turut terfasilitasi dalam berbagai kegiatan kokurikuler maupun ekstrakurikuler yang terdapat pada beberapa organisasi kemahasiswaan seperti HMS, Forsis, dan DPA dengan program kerja yang berintegrasi dengan program kerja unggulan departemen, yaitu program 3-in-1, Double Degree, Fast Track, Student Mobility, Staff Exchange, Joint Research, Seminar Internasional, MBKM, Dosen Berkarya, PKM Mahasiswa, Civil Fiesta, dan Civil Camp. Dalam rangka meningkatkan peran serta di masyarakat, dunia kerja, dan dunia pendidikan, Departemen Teknik Sipil terus meningkatkan kolaborasi kerjasama dengan perguruan tinggi, institusi, organisasi kemasyarakatan, dan lembaga penelitian baik tingkat nasional maupun internasional. Kolaborasi dari seluruh sivitas akademika yang bersinergi dan harmoni membuahkan berbagai torehan prestasi yang membanggakan baik pada bidang akademisi dan seni budaya pada tingkat nasional maupun internasional, seperti juara umum kompetisi jembatan Indonesia, juara 3 kompetisi bangunan tahan gempa, IDERS Taiwan, penghargaan Asia Bridge Competition, dan berbagai penghargaan bergengsi lainnya. Hal ini menjadikan Departemen Teknik Sipil sebagai salah satu departemen yang favorit dalam penerimaan mahasiswa baru. Lahir.id.
Baik, sekali lagi saya mengucapkan terima kasih sebanyak-banyaknya kepada seluruh partisipan yang sudah bergabung dalam kuliah tamu pada hari ini. Baik, untuk kuliah tamu pada hari ini tanggal 9 November 2023 dapat kami akhiri. Sekali lagi kami mengucapkan terima kasih sebesar-besarnya dan juga mohon maaf apabila masih banyak kekurangan dalam penyelenggaraannya. Atas perhatiannya kami sampaikan terima kasih.
Recording stopped.